Okay, there we go. So that's recording now. So hello everyone. Yeah, Claire is interviewing. She's going to join us shortly. She's just finishing some consulting interviews and then she'll be with us. So I'll just start us off. We'll do things in a slightly different order today. So we've got Claire Patterson is somewhere in the room, I believe, and she's going to talk to us about freedom to speak up. We've got an update from the CCRH team. I can see a couple of on the screen. Hello. And then Claire will be here to do our governance update and then bring us some news across the Directorate. So they're the key things for today. So if Claire is there and free to talk. Hello, Claire. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
I'll hand over to you very quickly, if that's all right, and you can talk to us about speaking up and your role and whatnot.
Absolutely. How am I going to move my slides? Is somebody going to press them for me?
I'll do it for you. So just give me the nod or say my name and I will click them on for you.
Lovely. Okay, next slide then, please. So, hi, my name's Claire. I'm the Freedom to Speak Up Guardian for the Trust. So I thought I'd just do a little introduction to Freedom to Speak Up. So do you want to just do kind of 3 clicks? We'll just bring that whole slide in. Perfect, thank you. So just as a reminder for the background of Freedom to Speak Up, comes in on the back of the Francis report. So if we can think back as far as 2005 to 2009, there were 1,200 excess deaths recorded at Stafford. At that point, there was no escalations from staff. The only escalation was made by patients, and it took the daughter of a patient who had died to really get any traction in terms of getting the events at Stafford looked into. So if you look at the Francis report, you can see that the level of care was just dreadful, and it's really hard to understand how a hospital got itself into such a position. And particularly striking, patients, they were left dirty, they were in pain, but some got to the point that they were so dehydrated that they drank the water out of their flowers. And you just can't think, how did anybody get there? And how did the staff not escalate it? Why did it take that lady in the purple coat in the picture to get anything to happen? So next slide, please. So we have a couple of reasons why staff didn't escalate. So fear is one of the key drivers. People can be frightened to escalate for a whole variety of reasons. A very junior member of staff can be frightened about approaching more senior members of staff to escalate. People can be worried about the consequences it can have. So that could be people worried about the fact that their flexible working agreements won't be agreed, or they'll only ever be put down to work the horrible shifts, the night shifts, the Christmases, through to people applying for jobs and worrying about whether or not they'll get the jobs that they apply for, through to some people having visa applications to remain in the country being part of being tied into their job. And so people genuinely being worried that if they raise concerns, put their head above the parapet, that they might find themselves in a situation where documents aren't signed and they might not be allowed to stay. So the consequences can be massive. And then for medical staff, we have the added complication that whilst the NHS is massive anonymous organisation very much, it can also be really, really tiny. And so there can be a fear, particularly amongst the medics, that getting a name for yourself as a troublemaker could really damage your career, and that consultant post just might never come, because the world is small and you've now got that label. So next slide, please, or next click. And then we have futility. So some people, they did try and speak up, but nothing happened, and that can be for a number of reasons, either because the people that they spoke to didn't have the power to make anything happen, or actually we fed back into fear. They escalated to the right people, but actually the right people were also then frightened themselves and didn't take it any further. Next slide, please. Oh, we can skip through this one. So the Francis report was published 2013, then revised in 2015. And, essentially Robert Francis said that staff, they come here to do a good job. they want to be able to work and escalate concerns without fear, confident that action will be taken. And he recognised that it can be really hard to do that, even when you've got a really well-run organisation. But in an organisation that isn't well run, then it can be really, really difficult. And he needed to put in processes to support that. So at that point, the concept of Freedom Speak Up was born. Now, when it was initially implemented, you had organisations saying, yeah, fine, our chief nurse can be our Freedom Speak Up guardian. They can be the person that will protect people if they want to escalate concerns. But they weren't very accessible to a lot of people. If you're confident enough to go and knock on the door of the chief nurse, you know, even if they are the Freedom Speak Up guardian, then, you know, you probably were confident enough anyway. Robert Francis recognised that this was happening in some organisations, and so he kind of rehashed the process, and proper Freedom Speak Up guardians with a National Guardians Office overseeing that was born a little bit later, 2015, which meant that 2016 actual guardians on the ground started to be rolled out. So next slide, please. Oh yeah, concept of Freedom Speak Up. So what is speaking up? So do you want to just click through the circle of these? So speaking up is anything that gets in the way of doing a good job. And so there's some suggestions on the slide that are absolutely not exhaustive. So, you know, unsafe patient care is an obvious one, but unsafe working conditions. So, you know, that can include staffing, but it can also involve the actual estate. You know, we've got hospitals in the region where literally ceilings are falling down around them. People need to be well inducted and well trained for the jobs that they do, and if they're not well trained and well inducted, they need to be able to escalate that and get that rectified. People are reporting incidents all the time. They're doing their QSISs, they're making their patient safety reports, but sometimes they're not responded to appropriately. So speaking up to get some extra traction on things that have already been raised. Fraudulent activity and culture. You know, if there's a bullying culture in a department, there's so much evidence out there that says that incivility within departments and bullying culture has a direct impact on patient safety. I often direct people to the work of Chris Turner, and if people haven't seen the Civility Saves Lives website and When Rudeness Turns Deadly TED Talk, I would definitely recommend that you have a look at that, because it really makes you stop and think about how the environment that we're in can impact us, and, you know, then knock onto the impact on safety. Next slide, please. So why is it important? So we need to make sure that we're learning lessons. Next one. We need to try and put something in place. If we can see that something's going wrong, then we need to try and stop it rather than just watch it happen. If things are going well, you know, can we roll it out, make it something that other parts of the organisation can use so that we can improve things across the board? People tend not to come to me as guardian because things are going well. But, you know, that is speaking up. And as guardian, I'm just one escalation pathway. Next slide, please. So, you know, I'm one escalation pathway. Ideally, what we would like if people want to speak up is we want them going to their line managers. So, you know, it's really important that we have a group of line managers that feel confident and well prepared to be able to support people. We know that there has been some work to do on that, and hopefully we're going to have some leadership training rolling out imminently, but we have got our leadership hub on DOT that people can access, because, you know, it's all well and good people speaking up. Somebody has to be really listening and has to be effective when they listen as well. So ideally, we want people to talk to their line managers, and we know that every day there are hundreds of issues being raised across the organisation that are being dealt with, and, you know, everything is absolutely fine, but that doesn't quite work for everybody. If people don't want to talk to their line managers, they might not have access to line managers for various reasons, but, you know, they can speak to their tutors. I cover everybody in the organisation apart from patients and visitors, so that would include students, so they can go to the tutors and to the universities. Supervisors, you know, I cover contractors as well, so they have different management structures to us. So supervisors, area leads, people can speak with their union, their professional midwifery or professional nursing advocates. We've got network champions, which can be a really good source of support. HR Consult is a fantastic resource. And then our safeguarding team as well can be really, really valuable when it comes to thinking about the wider impact that sometimes the issues can have. And then QSIS, people often forget that QSIS actually is a way of speaking up. If issues happen, then we should be recording them on QSIS, and that gives a data trail of an escalation that you've made. And those QSIS should be looked at by whoever owns them, and there should be learning from those. So QSISs are really valuable, and I know that sometimes people can roll their eyes a little bit and like, oh God, I've got to fill in a QSIS, but actually it is really, really useful, and it is a fantastic way of speaking up. It's not always appropriate though, and people don't always feel comfortable to do it so locally. Perhaps they just want a little bit of I'll say anonymity, but confidentiality. They don't necessarily want to share who they are because they're worried about that for whatever reason, and that's okay. And that's where the Freedom to Speak Up process can help. So we have listeners across the organisation, and I've had a really big push for listeners over the last month or so, because across the 12,000 of us within CUH, we only had about 30 odd listeners, which really isn't very many. So I've been having a massive push, and I've got a list of about 40 more listeners who are interested. I'm still looking for more. Training is at the end of November, beginning of December, and I'm also trying to put together some training in March. So the listeners, I describe those as local experts. They're the people who know within their department who the people are that can get things done. So if somebody comes and says, listen, I'm having this issue, they know where to signpost them locally within the department. They also do some training with myself, the HR team and the EDI team, so that they know who the external people are to signpost to within the organisation. The Freedom to Speak Up listeners, they don't have any time. And really what I hear from the listeners is that it isn't an onerous job. People aren't sitting down making appointments with people. It's often, making a cup of coffee, standing side by side. Can I just run something by you? Kind of sense check type conversations that are being had. And so the feedback that I'm getting is that it doesn't take up a huge amount of time. I am asking my listeners to provide me with some data though to prove that, because at the moment there's never been any data collected. But the listeners can do that signposting. If anything is beyond the realm of what they're able to do signposting wise, then they signpost to me and I pick it up and take it as a case. I'm the Freedom to Speak Up Guardian, and then my line manager is Ian Walker. He's our executive lead for Freedom to Speak Up. Next slide, please. So if you come to me, I aim to reply within 2 working days of an inquiry. If I'm not here, then Ian covers the inbox, and so he will get back to you, so that if it's urgent, then he can arrange to see you, but otherwise I'll see you when I come back. People communicate a number of ways, either by, most commonly it's face-to-face, but we can communicate by email or phone if people prefer. Next. There is a place sometimes for anonymous escalation. It's not something that we necessarily encourage, because that can make it really difficult for me to get to the heart of the problem. So if somebody wanted to escalate anonymously, they can leave a message on the voicemail and just not leave their details, or they can send an email from an address that's not attributable to them. So if Winnie the Pooh emails me from gmail.com, that's fine, and I can enter into a dialogue with them. But if I just get a voicemail message, I'm not an expert in everything in CUH. I have 26 years midwifery experience, so I consider myself an expert down that end of the site. But there are some really in-depth things that happen here that I just don't understand, and something that might seem really simple to one person actually is a foreign language to me. And if it's just a message that I've got, I can't really make sure that I understand what the problem is. So anything that gives me a two-way dialogue so that I can properly understand the problem is best, really. So if people don't feel that they can escalate by giving me their name, that's fine, do it anonymously, but my preference would be in a way that I can ask questions. I will start from a point of confidentiality, but I am obliged to share in some situations. So if there's immediate safeguarding, immediate patient harm, or if later on there's a legal request for information. So if there's a court case and people want to know if it's already been escalated, if we think about recent court cases, you know, that could be something that I'm asked to share. Next one, please. My job isn't to fix things. My job is to make sure that you have access to the right people to fix things for you. So people want a whole variety of things. Sometimes people come, they tell me their problem, and they just feel a lot better because they've shared it, and that's fine. Sometimes people know, they know that they want me to know about it, but there's nothing particularly to do now, but they just want me to kind of file it away so that if it becomes a theme, something that I keep hearing, then I can gather it all together as a theme. Sometimes people, they know they need to do something, they're happy to do it, they just don't know where to go with it, so I can signpost. Sometimes people, you know, they want that little bit of protection from me, and so I can open the doors for them. So, you know, if you imagine that you're having to knock on a door 2 or 3 steps above you in that kind of hierarchy, it can feel a little bit scary. So I can make those contacts and put people in touch just to take that level of fear out of it. And I can go, you know, as high as the executives on the board. Next. And then I can feedback outcomes. And again, that's difficult if there's if it's anonymous and there's no way of me getting in touch, so that you know what's happened. Next. But I can't necessarily always get the outcomes that you're looking for. So sometimes people come with a very fixed idea in mind of what they want me to do. I can't always do that. You know, literally if somebody comes and says, there's a bullying culture in my department, it's my boss, I want them sacked, I don't get people sacked. What I can do is I can make sure that the appropriate processes are underway and signpost people to those processes if necessary. And why is it important? Next slide. So we don't end up here. You know, we know that in the Countess of Chester, people did try and escalate. Now, at that point, the Freedom to Speak Up Guardian was during that period when people like chief nurses were given the job, and in the Countess of Chester, it was a chief nurse. We know that it took a long time for people to be heard. We know that it's important that we try and get that culture of people escalating, and importantly, people listening, so that we don't end up with our own headlines. That's my little chat. Is there anything anybody wanted to ask? Sorry, I know that I speak really fast when I'm doing that because I just want to get through it all and not take up too much of your time.
Thank you, Claire. Has anybody got anything they want to ask? I can't see any hands, so just shout at me if you do. I think that's really, really helpful, and I think we're very keen to encourage some of our teams and our staff to come forward and be speaking up listeners. We know that not everybody feels comfortable talking to their managers or to their colleagues about things. So I, you know, would encourage anyone in the Directorate to get in contact with Claire if they want to be a speaking up listener and volunteer for that. Because we're keen to have more. I know we had a couple before. Michaela was one of them, and she's now left the Directorate. And I guess, Claire, you can go to any speaking up listener, can't you, across the trust? It doesn't necessarily need to be one within your area, does it? But
absolutely, you can, and you can find them on Connect in the Supporting Our Staff. Freedom to Speak Up has got a tab in there, and you can find the listeners. And so, you know, as you say, you might not want to speak to somebody too close, or you know, there might be something that you want to identify in a listener that might make it a little bit easier to talk to them. So, you know, shared lived experiences. So you don't necessarily, you know, anybody can be a guardian, a listener. It doesn't matter what your role is. You don't have to be a particular grade. You don't have to be a particular age. You know, not everybody wants to talk to someone that looks like their mum. So, you know, if you're younger, then, you know, absolutely, there's a place for being a listener for you too. So, yeah, you know, I would love to see listeners from across the organisation that really reflect well our workforce as well. And then we can ask everybody that does become a listener to put a little biography up on Connect, so that people can choose the right listener for them in those sort of situations as well. There's an expression of interest form on Connect as well.
Okay, we'll share those links. I'll share them in the update on Wednesday when I send it out to the Directorate. I'll put all the links in so everyone can get to those. Thank you. And yeah, and QSIS is, everyone is often scared of a QSIS and they think, oh, I'm going to get someone in trouble or if there's a problem. But actually, that's not what they're about. It's about being open and honest and us learning from things and sharing things. And so I know every time we talk about governance, we talk about all the QSIS forms and everything that we can complete. So just again, encouragement to use those and do those. So thank you, Claire. Nice to meet you.
Lovely. If I can help anybody, if anybody within their departments wants me to come and chat a little bit more locally to their workforce within their departments, I'm more than happy to. I can do, come down face to face or, Teams, whatever suits you best. But it's been really nice to meet you. Thank you for having me. And if I can do anything to help anybody, you know where I am. Just give me a shout.
Lovely. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, so I shall click on there is Claire's details, and as I say, I'll put them in the update on Wednesday so that they're all there. And now I'm going to move on to the CCRH in the hope that Claire arrives by the time you talk slowly, Carrie. So Claire has time to arrive at the end, so I don't have to wing it.
Okay, on that basis, I'm not going to talk that slowly, Kevin. Thank you again for having us back to talk about the Cancer Hospital. So really just intending to keep people up to date with what's happening at the moment and what our priorities are at the moment. So yeah, can you move on to our first slide? Thank you. So I actually look back at what we said in the last briefing, and actually quite a lot has happened since then. So hopefully you will have heard via the other routes through the trust comms and our various meetings. So hopefully you will know that the formal outline business case was approved by the Treasury, and that we have now started working with our preferred construction partner, Lang O'Rourke. So a big building company who have built numerous cancer hospitals actually in the last few years around the country. So on that basis, the project is now really starting to split into two different halves. We've got the construction side, which will go on to get on and build a building, and that's led by Matt Allen, who you will have seen has been appointed as the Director of New Hospitals Construction for the Trust. So he's looking after the Children's Hospital as well as the Cancer Hospital. And then on the other side, we have the transformation agenda, which is led by John and Hugo as part of the project. And that's really about what do we do in the building and how do we move into the building, and also about how does this building interact with all the parts of CUH that it needs to, cancer and non-cancer, and the region and our surrounding hospitals. So much more about what we do than the building that we work in, although there is, as ever, plenty of interaction between the two. On the construction side, Lang O'Rourke have been working hard to get to grips with the design of the building and working up what we call a not to exceed price, so to figure out how much they think it's going to cost to build this building. And that work is just concluding now. You will have seen some of the coverage actually in the national press around water usage in the east of England, and that is currently impacting on our application for planning permission. So we are still waiting for the Environment Agency to confirm the approach that they are going to take for that for the cancer hospital. But it's not a cancer hospital problem, it's an east of England wide problem that we are waiting for the conclusion of. Planning permission has been granted, however, for the car park move, so that will start, and that process is just being worked through. We should be starting the next stage of the design process very imminently in the next few weeks, and that's all about the technical design of the hospital, so lots of work on wiring and plumbing, as I understand, which I'm hoping we will not get too involved in. And then alongside all this building and construction discussion, we are starting to test out some of our transformation plans and our delivery plans around how we think things will be different in this hospital with some of our external partners, so NHS England, the New Hospitals team, so that we bring them on board and start to work a little bit more collaboratively across the region. Good, thank you very much. So we should the aim is to submit the full business case next year for the hospital, probably in about the middle of next year, and that's it's a kind of stage approach, so it'll go through multiple different organisations. And as part of that, we have put together lots of documents around workforce and education, and some of you on the call may have been involved in that. Libby, Amanda Wood, Elaine, Eileen, been very involved in that. I've touched on the benefits delivery plans already. We do have an outlined transition plan about how we might move into this building. That's going to get much further work up over the next 2 and 3 years and beyond. And equally, some of the formal documentation we need around equality and quality impact assessments we have also been doing. On the design side, we have been trying to close out all the remaining issues around design, a few of which are this listed there. I mean, perhaps the most significant ones are around some thoughts around what we do about the number of water outlets in the building. Lots of you will be familiar with the challenges that other buildings have faced around infection control, and we are considering carefully the number of hand wash basins we have in this new building as one way of reducing the risks around waterborne infections. Additionally, some of you very helpfully came to our staff reference group last week, where we talked about some of the choices that we are having to think about the ground floor design and how we make a good decision about the core components of that space. We expect that to come to a conclusion over the next month or so. As ever, ongoing work with the Teenage Cancer Trust about the teenage and young adult space, and we've had some great conversations with the digital team about digital infrastructure of late. Again, lots more to do. Okay, we can probably have the next slide. So here I just wanted to share a little bit with you the list of our kind of core priorities around how we think this building will work. I'm conscious this is a massive topic which will end up involving really everyone, and there is lots that we do need to do. So we have picked off the key elements that we are keen to work through at this stage. That doesn't mean we aren't interested in lots of other things. We are, but we are just not addressing them at the moment. Sometimes I worry a little bit that people think that we haven't talked to them about their specific area of the hospital or a particular priority, and therefore we're not doing anything, or we haven't thought about it. It is really a case of us picking off some big issues and then working down into a greater level of detail. So as ever, we're really keen to hear from people if there are things that are worrying you, because we ultimately will create a big master list of things that we need to work through between now and 2028. And that will always be ebbing and flowing a little bit in its priority. But if you haven't heard, if you or your service haven't heard about us particularly, well, do get in touch with us if there are things that you think we should be thinking about, because that helps us to factor that into our kind of plan over the next year or so. But I thought I'd list there those things that we are working on at the moment, just so that you can see them. Lots of very important things, and particularly those two at the end around how we deliver activity differently once we get to this point in time. Is going to be something really important for us to work collectively on over the next 5 years and beyond. I think that is all I wanted to say today about the Cancer Hospital. Always happy to answer questions, or people to send us questions.
Thank you, Kerry. That's really helpful. If anyone's got any questions, please pop them in the chat and we can come back to them if that's helpful. Starting to sound very exciting, and I really hope, Kerry, as you've already alluded to, that actually we change our practice and we start to develop as we think about moving into the Cancer Hospital. There's no point in us moving as we are. We could do some really exciting things, and I particularly hope involving technology as well to make our lives more efficient. So thank you very, very much. And hello everyone, apologies for being very late this morning. I had the pleasure of interviewing gynae oncology surgeons that slightly overran, so apologies and thank you for Kevin for kicking off. I have the pleasure of arriving ready for the governance update, which is never my strong desire to do governance, but go on, let's give it a go. So in terms of our incident reporting, a reminder really for everybody that it is really important to report any incidents, any near misses. You can also report on QSIS something called a GREAT-X, which is a positive, thank you very much, someone's done well, which always, again, feels a little bit perverse that we're reporting those sorts of things on there, but it can all be done through QSIS. You don't have to have any particular training to report incidents on QSIS. Absolutely everybody can report them. And it's, as I say, it's really important that we are open, transparent, and we report when we believe individually something may not have gone according to our policies or may not have been the best outcome for a patient or a member of staff. There's absolutely no reason why you should worry about reporting an incident. It might turn out actually after investigation that there wasn't anything particularly that went wrong or we could have done to prevent it. And again, that's absolutely fine, but it's really important to report them and to be open and transparent about it. Even if it's something that's maybe not in your clinical area. So I don't know if you see something walking around the hospital site that you worry about, it's again really important that you report it as an incident and it will find the right department to investigate it. So you can see on the screen here, we've got our number of incidents, oh, sorry, Kevin, our number of incidents that we reported in the last 3 months. What really concerns me on this slide is the bottom right-hand corner graph. So this is how long it takes us to investigate our incidents. And you can see there that we've still got some that are open past day, and my eyes are very small, past day sort of 40, even past day 30, and that really is far too long for us to be investigating those incidents. And it's really important that we investigate them quickly so that we can do any learning and prevent them happening again. What we wouldn't want is for patients or a member of staff to have something happen to them repetitively because we haven't quite investigated and taken any action. So really important if you've got an overdue incident on QSIS to investigate it. If you have absolutely no idea whether you have an overdue incident, whether you have actually any incidents at all against your name, members of the central QSIS team or certainly our own QA team are very happy to help. QSIS is a great system if you use it every day, but if you use it very not very regularly, then it can be a bit of a challenge. So please ask for help. And we will send around regular reports from a directorate level to all the specialty leads, so you should know if there's anything against your name. Next one, please, Kevin. Thank you. So this is just an analysis of what sort of incidents we've had and what category they're all under. Again, there may be some themes in here. So I can always remember an example where we've had a patient on D9 who is prone to falls. So again, if you have a patient on a ward, I can see some falls there against hem-onc. You may end up having multiple incidents reported for that same patient. And that's where it's really important that we look at what we can do to prevent that patient falling and to try and make their care and their pathway better. But you can see there's a huge variety of incident reasons there and subcategories. Next one, Kevin, please. Onto risks. So risks are something that we should be saying and reporting ideally up front. They can come following an incident, but ideally this is where within your department you think actually there's a risk of poor patient care, there's a risk of us not being able to do all the tasks that we are required to do in our team because of something that's happening. Often that can be things like lack of equipment, lack of workforce. There could be, say, something stopping you doing things, and the majority of our risks that we've got on here are due to our workforce constraints, either gaps in where we've got vacancies, or where we've got things like, COVID infection over the last few years. If a whole team's off with COVID, then it leaves us at risk of delivering that service. We've got things on there around our lack of haematology beds currently, which is one of our highest risks. We've got things on there around our cell therapy lab and their recovery programme, all sorts of things, bits of equipment that need replacing in the next few years. So again, really important that within your specialty you know what's on there and that we're reviewing and keeping these risks up to date. as a directorate, actually, we do a really good job of managing these risks and actually completing the actions needed to reduce the risk and ultimately close it, which is really, really great. We've got a few that have sat on there now for nearly a couple of years, where we are doing quite extensive pieces of work. I've mentioned the cell therapy lab and our bone marrow transplant beds, and that's really important that we keep updating those. We escalate them through to divisional board every month, and that goes on to the exec team so that we can keep raising that this is a real concern for our patients. Next one, please, Kevin. Health and safety, again, really important to keep you and our patients safe while you're in work and on site at Addenbrooke's. We will come round and do an audit. I don't like the word audit. I was going to say inspection, but that's even worse. We will come round and support you within your areas just to make sure that we've got everything in place to make sure that you are safe while you're at work. And if there are any actions that come out of that, then we can again help you address those and get the right services to support you. This could be, you know, really, really simple things like our flooring. I know our flooring in lots of places is not great, and we do like to use sellotape to stick it down, don't we? But actually, you know, is that on a replacement program somewhere? Can we get someone to come in and help you fix that? So again, really important that we do these to keep everybody safe, and I hope they're seen as a positive, supportive thing to come around and do. So you've got the schedule there, and a member of our QA team will come round and let you know before they arrive. Next one, please, Kevin. And they're just some of our health and safety risks that we've got open at the minute, which are far too small for my eyes to see, but hopefully you're all aware of where we've got these in your relevant area. Policies and documents, the bane of all of our lives, I'm sure. So this is where we have patient information, policies, documents, all sorts of operational policies, and whether they are in date or not. We do love a policy in the NHS, don't we? I think we've got a policy for everything, how to breathe, how to move. And I slightly fear that within this cohort, we have got multiple policies that duplicate, contradict each other. And over the years, rather than looking at what's really there, we just start a new one every time. And I'm very guilty of that. So what we really need to do with these, and particularly the ones in red that are overdue, we need to be going back, reviewing them, checking, do we really still need this policy? Has it been duplicated elsewhere? Some of those ones in red are COVID policies, where we have slightly treated our patients differently within the middle of the pandemic, that now we've returned our services to what they were pre-COVID. So again, I think they could be archived, and it's just really important to make sure they're up to date. What we wouldn't want is for patients to receive care that's against an out-of-date policy just because something's on Merlin or online that's not correct. So that's really important to work our way through. And you can see there that our cell therapy lab, CCTL, have got a huge amount of policies that, again, there's some duplication and some work there that we can do with them, and they're working really hard to try and review those before a big accreditation visit that they've got coming up in the next few weeks. So lots of work to do. Next one, please, Kevin. That just gives a breakdown of who we're waiting for and where policies are overdue. So a real push is to try and get those from 2021 at least done and closed and sorted out and updated, and then we can start working on the 2022 ones. If you do have a policy that you are responsible for and you're the author of, again, it's really important for you to think ahead a little bit. And if you know it's coming up for review, start early on it, especially if you need other people's opinions and support with it. You can start reviewing a policy 6 months, 3 months, whatever it needs in advance of that review date. Don't let it go past the review date is really, really helpful. And obviously, if you want to archive, and again, if you don't know what these policies are, the QA team will happily help you. Next one, please. Some fantastic patient experience feedback. So we get all sorts of patient feedback coming through in various different ways. We've captured some of it for all of our teams there. I think it's really, really important that we are reminded that we do a good job and that we really do provide fantastic care for our patients. I will let you read those yourselves. We also, in terms of the complaints process as well, have had a slight change with how patients do respond to us, how they give us positive and equally negative feedback, which I think is really starting to improve how we work with our patients and how we get that feedback. But some fantastic comments there. Thank you all very, very much. You should be very proud of the care that you're delivering. Next one, Kevin. That's just to show the areas that we receive complaints, feedbacks, concerns, compliments, a mixture of everything in there. Next one, please, Kevin. And that's it. So in terms of things that are directorate wide, we mention this every time. We really want to hear from you about what we can do to improve, change, how we can support you to make your areas better. This does not need to be huge, great, big, costly changes. This could be something really simple that you just don't know how to achieve. So our Innovation Change Station, anybody again can submit ideas on here. It might be something that drives you mad every day and you think, why can't we fix this? You might not even know the solution, but you might just want to say, can I please have some help? And the areas where we've worked on before, we found some funding for things. So I can remember a time when the HCAs down in Oncology Clinic really struggled to get for a cup of tea as a break within the day, because the kitchen's miles away from the clinic area and they never had time to get to that room, make a cup of tea and come back before the next cohort of patients. And we found, I will say, it's a tiny little cupboard. It's not a very pleasant room, but they've made it into such a fantastic area now that people can get a cup of tea along the clinic corridor. We found some funding to do it. The HCAs did all the design for it, and we helped them just with contacts with the right places. So it's things like that that we can do to really help improve things in your area. All ideas welcome. I say, even if you're not quite sure of the solution, somebody somewhere will have a solution to try and help you out. You're all very welcome to submit ideas through that change station. And then a positive story as well. So I hope I can see some names on the call of people from these teams. We did amazingly well at the CUH annual awards. We had lots of nominees in categories, so congratulations to all the nominees. And very proud to say that we had winners in 2 categories, which is fantastic. So those on the team are going to listen to me say hemoglobinopathy just to check that I can actually say it. So huge congratulations to that team. Amazing service. If you don't know what they do, if you've never heard of hemoglobinopathy, I'll say it again, then please, put it in Google, figure out a little bit about what the team do. We've got some Adam Brooks websites as well. I didn't know much about this service before they joined us in the Directorate a few years ago, and they're an absolutely fantastic team. So please, really amazing to learn about what they do and how they support patients. So very much deserved. And that was an award that was nominated by patients, so even more special. And then we have our other fantastic winner of the Together Award, which is our Cancer Assessment Unit. CAU was nominated last year and didn't win, so I'm very pleased to see this year that they did manage to win their category. It's amazing. CAU has had a really tough time over the last few years in that they have been used as a contingency area, so they've had patients overnight who can't be admitted to our wards because our wards were full, which for a service that should not be open overnight has been really amazing that those staff have supported our patients. I know it's been incredibly tough for them. For those of you that know where CAU is, it's not particularly an area that we would want patients in overnight. It's not a ward, and we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that it is not opened overnight as contingency. So yeah, a fantastic achievement there for both those teams. So huge well done. And let's see what nominations we get next year already. So please make sure you nominate your teams when the opportunities come around. Epic upgrade. So I'm hoping most of you have already figured this one out this morning, or you've sat cursing your PC and wondering what on earth you need to do to get into Epic this morning. So there was an Epic upgrade in the early hours of the morning yesterday morning. So you now can no longer access Epic through your normal icon on your desktop, the little white and pink sort of Epic. You have to go in through a Citrix workspace. So you go in, as the diagram shows there, you go into your main menu on your computer and go into Citrix workspace, and then you have to refresh your apps. And you only need to refresh your apps once when you first go in and do it, and then it will be fine going forward. If you do go into the old Epic, it comes up with a big banner that says this is read only, so you won't be able to enter anything. This is the new way now of accessing Epic, and you will need to go in through that Citrix workspace every time. You can no longer use that icon that's on your desktop, so that can be removed. or if IT will be removing them for us. If anybody is stuck, obviously the IT help desk is there if you find it's not working, but hopefully those of you that have managed to master it can help your colleagues that may be struggling. But please do shout if you're stuck, if something hasn't quite worked. It's fairly similar if you're using BYOD. You just need to go in through your normal Citrix and refresh your apps, and it works fine. When you're in the new version Epic, it looks slightly different, the font's slightly different. When you search for patients, things are in different places. They do like to move things around, don't they, just to confuse us. But hopefully it's not too difficult to figure it out, and it'll soon become normal for us. So just a reminder of that. Is there anything else? That's it. Question and answer over to you guys. If there's anything anybody wants to ask, I can't see any questions in the chat, can I? No, just apologies from Carrie. If anyone has got any questions, any thoughts, please pop them in the chat, or you're very welcome to contact us directly afterwards. Nobody's jumping out at me. That saves me having to answer difficult questions today. Just a reminder in terms of, I think there was something in CUH Daily on Friday that I have to say I missed myself, around the selling back of annual leave. So if you are starting to think about with your teams what annual leave people have got booked over the coming weeks, obviously think about what you can take past Christmas. And if anybody does want to sell back any annual leave, the window to do that is open now, I believe, until the end of November. So please consider that if that's the right option for you. Obviously, it's really important that you take regular breaks, so please get your annual leave booked in if you do want to take some time off. Kevin?
Sorry, I was just going to talk about IT equipment in that it's everyone's favourite topic. We still are unable to get laptops. I know some of you have put in requests. We still have those requests and we will keep them as long as we can. And if we get any laptops available, we'll try and get them in your direction. We are trying some of the e-hospital laptops, which are smaller screen laptops. They don't work quite as well with Epic. We're trialing some of those. So hopefully if they work and they do what we need them to do, they work slightly differently to the Lenovo ones that everyone has got if you've managed to get one. So we're trialing those. Monitors, I believe we've had some delivered recently. So hopefully we have managed to get some monitors. We are now slightly stuck with desktop PCs in that we have orders that have been placed, but we are being told by IT that they won't fulfill those until we have identified any desktops that are unused across the Directorate and the division. However, where they are telling us some of these PCs are not within areas within cancer. So trying to find them is a bit of a minefield. So at the moment, we're slightly stuck with desktops. I've got some more emails about those that I'm looking at. So IT equipment remains a challenge. I would say put your request into the Directorate request form that is within the weekly update that we send out. Please don't request it directly with IT initially. It needs to come to us first. Otherwise, it gets stuck in a big black hole and you will never see that request again. So put it into us and we will try and help you to manage that through the process. But it is slow and it is long going. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Kevin. The only other thing I was going to mention then was COVID and flu vaccines. Those of you that haven't quite managed to get them yet, and if you want to do, are available down in what was Barclays Bank, which is an interesting thing to see them using. Great use of space. So please make sure you get along there. I think for COVID, you have to book your slot, and for flu, you can just turn up. I managed to wangle a free pen from them as well, which is definitely worth it. So please make your way down there if you want to do. And obviously just start to think about, as we all start to get bugs. I know there's all the children around at the minute are spreading it around, aren't they, which is very kind of them to do. Just please think about your colleagues. Obviously, if you're coming into work, just make sure if you do need to wear a mask, if you're feeling a bit cold and fluey and putting a mask on is the right thing for you, you are very, very welcome to do that. And just think a little bit more about your colleagues and people around who are patients. If you can work from home, if you're not quite feeling great but still well enough to work, then home working might be an option. I don't think the Trust are going to go down a sort of mandatory mask wearing, which I believe some other hospitals have done. But let's just be a little bit considerate about colleagues and our patients and try and keep our germs to ourselves as much as possible. Nobody's put any more exciting questions for me in the chat. Thank you very much, everyone. Which just leaves me to say a huge thank you for everything you do. I'm always incredibly proud of our Cancer Directorate. We do some fantastic things, and it's really good to see that we are still pushing and still wanting to change and improve and develop our services, even in really tough times. So thank you very, very much, everyone. We will see you again, I think, our next session, if we got one before Christmas. Kevin, I'm going to put you on the spot now. No, in the new year.
January will be the next one.
January, the next one. We will see you all in the new year then on the other side. I can't get Christmassy. That would be far too odd today, won't it? Not quite yet. Have a lovely rest of the week, everyone, and thank you again.